The Cloud of Unknowing, in which a soul is made one with God. Chapter 4. But so that you shall not go wrong in this work of contemplation, and suppose it to be other than it is, I must tell you a little more about it as I see it. This work does not demand a long time to be fully completed, as some people suppose, for it is the briefest of all imaginable actions. It is neither longer nor shorter than an instant which, as defined by expert scientists in the field of astronomy, is the smallest unit of time. It is so tiny that its small size makes it indivisible and almost beyond our understanding. This is the time of which it is written. All the time that is given you, it shall be asked of you how you have spent it, and it's reasonable that you should account for it, for it is exactly equivalent, neither longer nor shorter, to a single stirring within the principal active faculty of your soul, which is your will. For exactly as many stirrings of volition or desire can and do occur in 1 hour in your will as there are instants in 1 hour, neither more nor fewer. And if you were reformed by grace to the original state of the human soul as it was before sin, then with the help of that grace you would always be in control of every such stirring, and so no one would go astray, but they would all reach out towards the supreme goal of desire and the highest object of will, which is God. For by circumscribing his Godhead, he adapts himself exactly to our soul, and our soul is exactly adapted to him by the dignity of our creation in his image and likeness. And he by himself alone and none but he is fully sufficient, and far more than fully, to satisfy the will and desire of our soul. And by means of this reforming grace, our soul is made fully sufficient to grasp him in his entirety by love. God, who is beyond the reach of all created intellectual faculties, such as those of angels and human souls. I mean beyond the reach of their knowledge and not of their love, which is why in the present case I refer to intellectual faculties. Only see, all rational beings, angels and men, have in them, each individually, 2 principal active faculties, one a faculty of knowledge, and the second a faculty of love. And God their Maker is forever beyond the reach of the first of these, the intellectual faculty, but by means of the second, the loving faculty, he can be fully grasped by each individual being to such an extent that each single loving soul may, by virtue of love, embrace within itself him who is fully sufficient, and beyond comparison, more than fully, to fill all the souls and angels that can ever exist. And this is the unending, marvellous miracle of love, which will never be concluded, for God will always do it, and will never cease from doing it. Let whoever has grace to see this, see it, for to experience this is unending bliss, and to lack it is unending pain. Then, given that by nature we cannot exist without these stirrings of the will, anyone who is restored by grace to be in continuous control of them would never be without some taste of eternal sweetness on earth, or without complete enjoyment of it in heaven. So do not be surprised if I urge you to this work, for, as you will hear later, this is the work in which humanity would have continued if we had never sinned. And it is the work for which we were made, and everything was made for us to help and further us in it, and by it we shall once more be restored. And for want of this work, we fall deeper and deeper into sin, and further from God. And simply by perseverance and continual activity in it, and nothing else, we always rise higher and higher from sin, and nearer to God. And so take good care of time, and how you spend it, for nothing is more precious than time. In one little time, however little it is, heaven may be won and lost. A sign that time is precious is that God, the giver of time, never gives 2 times together, but always one time after another. and he does this because he does not wish to reverse the order or regular course of causes in his creation. For time is made for man, and not man for time. In his disposition of time, therefore, God, the ruler of nature, will not diverge from the natural movement of the human soul, which consists of just one stirring at a time. Thus we shall not be able to claim forgiveness of God at the last judgment, when we are called to give account of the spending of time, by saying, "You gave 2 times at once, and I have only 1 stirring of soul at a time." But now you say, sadly, "How shall I manage?" And since what you are saying is true, how shall I give account of each separate moment? I, who, now aged 24, never before this day took heed of time. You know well from the very reasoning of what you've just written, that if I should now wish to put things right, it is impossible for me in the order of nature, or of ordinary grace, to control or make amends for any times, but those that are yet to come. And what is more, I know from experience itself that my overwhelming weakness and sluggishness of spirit will mean that I shall never be able to attend to one future time in 100, so that I am completely confounded by these arguments. Help me now, for the love of Jesus. You did well to say, for the love of Jesus, for in the love of Jesus shall be your help. Love is so great a power that it makes all possessions common. Love Jesus, therefore, and all that he has is yours. As God, he is the maker and giver of time. As man, he is the true governor of time. And as God and man together, he is the truest judge and auditor of the spending of time. So bind yourself to him in love and faith, and then by means of that bond you will be an equal partner with him, and with all who are thus bound to him by love. That is, with Our Lady St. Mary, who is full of grace in keeping time, with all the angels in heaven, who may never waste time, and with all the saints in heaven and on earth, who, by the grace of Jesus, keep exact account of time by means of love. This is where comfort is to be found. Interpret it correctly and seize some profit from it. I warn you, though, of one thing above all. I cannot see who can truly claim this partnership with Jesus and his just mother, his holy angels and his saints, but someone who does all he can, aided by grace, to attend to time, so that he can be seen to benefit the company on his own part, little though it is, just as all the others do on their part. And so to attend to this work of contemplation, and the marvellous way it operates within your soul, for truly understood it is just as sudden as it was, as it were unforeseeing stirring, springing swiftly to God like a spark from a coal. And it is marvellous how many stirrings can occur in an hour in a soul that is given to this work, and yet in just one of all these stirrings it can happen that you forget the whole created world, suddenly and completely. But straight after each stirring, because of the flesh's corruption, the soul falls back down into some thought or action, done or not done. But what of that? For straight afterwards it rises again as suddenly as it did before. Here is how to understand in brief the nature of this work, and to recognize clearly that it's far from any fantasy, false imagining, or strange opinion, for these are produced not by any such devout and humble blind stirring of love, but a proud, ingenious, and fanciful intellect. Such a proud, ingenious intellect must always be overcome and firmly trodden underfoot if the work of contemplation is to be truly undertaken in purity of spirit. For those who hear reading or discussion about this work, and suppose that it can or should be achieved by labour of the intellect, and so they sit and search their intellects for ways to do it, and perhaps ingeniously torment their imaginations against the course of nature, and devise a kind of activity that is neither bodily nor spiritual, Truly, any such person, whoever he may be, is dangerously deceived. Indeed, unless God of his great goodness should miraculously take mercy on him and make him give up this activity quickly and turn humbly to the advice of experienced contemplatives, he will fall either into attacks of frenzy or into other kinds of trouble, spiritual sins and diabolic deceptions, through which he could easily be lost, life and soul, without end. And so, for the love of God, take care in this work, and do not struggle in your intellect or imagination in any way, for I tell you truly it cannot be achieved by that kind of struggle. So give it up and do not attempt it. Do not suppose, because I call it a darkness or a cloud, that it's a cloud condensed out of the vapours that float in the air, or a darkness like that in your house at night when your candle is out. By intellectual ingenuity, you can imagine such a darkness or cloud brought before your eyes on the brightest day of summer, just as, conversely, in the darkest night of winter, you can imagine a clear shining light. Give up such errors. This is not what I mean. For when I say darkness, I mean an absence of knowing, in the sense that everything you do not know or have forgotten is dark to you, because you cannot see it with your mind's eye. And for this reason, it is not called a cloud in the air, but a cloud of unknowing that is between you and your God.